Hi, this is Mel. I hope all of you are doing awesome. Today I'm going to do a story. Now, this is based on a true story, and the story happened to someone that I know, and that person wished to be secret. So, I'm going to keep the identity secret and we'll call her Remy. So Remy was coming home from school. She lived in a small town, which is more like a village than a town, and her best friend was Soma. She didn't have too many friends, but she had one best friend, Soma, and every morning she would go and call her for going to school. And their school started around 7 a.m. and then 7 a.m. to 7:30 they had PE class. As soon as they went in the school first thing in the morning, they had to exercise, and then after that 7:30 they went prayer, and 8 o'clock they had actual class beginning, and their school ended around 3 p.m. So then they would just pray again. Around 2:30 they would pray, and 3 p.m. they got to go home. So as she was coming, and this going and coming to school was about 30 minutes or sometimes more walking, depending on their speed. It wasn't very close by. So as they were coming, there was an old temple, and this was a huge Lord Kali temple. And this Kali temple was well known because the Lord Kali there was much more alive, and people came and prayed for their miseries, and whatever they wished for, that came true. So outside the Kali temple, there was a lady. She always used to sit there, and her name was Mrs. Ghosh. And people called her the town witch, and but she wasn't like this from the beginning. Once her husband died, and she had a son, and her son and son's wife did not want to live with her, so they threw her out of her own house. Then whatever her husband's money was there, whatever she had savings, she used that to buy a small cottage at the end of the town next to the cemetery. Now she didn't have anybody, so she would just go sit in the cemetery. That's where she found peace. And then she became a very strong believer of Goddess Kali, and she would pray and meditate and all this thing. And then as she started beginning sitting in the cemetery for hours at night time, her behavior started changing, and people saw that she became very strange, and she had a lot of powers, and instead of growing older, she started looking very younger and younger. But then people were noticing that many young boys and girls were getting sick in the village or slash town, and they have this something common on them, that they would get extremely weak and lose a lot of weight, but then they will sleep all day, but then at night time around 12 a.m. they will wake up and just like sleepwalking while they are still sleepy and some sort of trance they were in. They will walk to the cemetery where this town witch lived, and they will walk there, and then nobody went there actually to check what they were doing, but they will come back around 3 a.m. same way, sleepy, dragging their bodies. And when they came back, they were actually extremely exhausted, out of energy, and then they will sleep whole day with no energy. But they did eat a lot. Even though they didn't have energy, they ate a lot. So this was happening to many young girls and boys in the town, and everybody knew that this was the act of the town witch. Her eyes were very magical, and no one dared to look at her eyes. But the problem was even the police, and nobody could punish her because whoever will go talk to her, they will look at her and they forget what they came for, and they will go in certain trance and they will get sick as soon as they went home. So nobody actually could punish her. She would change her looks and her body and appearance. Sometimes she will become an old lady, sit outside the temple. Sometimes she'll be very pretty young girl. She developed a lot of magical abilities for sitting in the cemetery, and she started doing tantra, called tantric, who does black magic. She started doing that, and she started learning. She learned very well Basikaran is where she can control people's thought, behavior, action, and mind, and she could do that even from far away. So she developed a lot of black talent, which were like evil talent. So then, as Soma and Remy coming, they saw the people gathered in the village and they were beating up this young, beautiful lady. And everybody call her the town witch, but they call her Ghosh auntie. Her name was Ghosh. So her name was actually Sheila Ghosh. So they were beating her up because they were so frustrated, and they want to throw her out of the temple, so you cannot go in the temple. So as they were beating her up and throw her out, and Rimi and Soma, they were thinking like, how can someone have so much power that they can control everybody's mind? But they never dared to look at her eyes, because all the people got sick actually looked at her eyes. Now she would become extremely beautiful woman, and she'll sit outside the temple, and many outsiders who didn't know, they will just stare at her magical beauty, and then they'll see her eyes, and her eyes were the problematic. They would put people in trance, and then these people will do anything she wanted. So when these people went to the cemetery, they sleepwalk, and then she will drink their blood from their neck, from their hand. When they came home, they had very black, dark blue, black patches in their neck and hand where she drank the blood, but she would drink just a little to keep her victims alive, and they would come back home. But after some times, many of the victims actually died, but she continued living and looking prettier and prettier, but nobody could do anything or punish her because people were not able to. She would vanish and take different forms, and for years people saw her being a pretty woman, and she didn't have problem with money either. She would look so pretty and beg outside the temple, and people always give her food and clothes and whatever she needed, money, and she'll change form, so she always didn't stay in the same looking. She'll become woman, then become a girl, and sometimes become a little girl. She actually developed tremendous abilities while meditating on the cemetery. And a lot of the tantrics, they did develop tremendous abilities while meditating on the cemetery, because cemetery, the burial ground, is called where the actual truth of the life lies. Like, people are so much involved into getting money, doing things, working all day, having hopes, dreams, But cemetery is where it all ends, and where people cannot take anything. They just go and their bodies are bare. So what this tantric do is, as soon as the body is burned and the people leave them, that's when they capture the soul and make the soul do things for them, and they kind of make the soul their slave and make them do all kinds of things whatever they wanted. So that's how Sheila Ghosh was. She developed magical powers in the cemetery, and it was very problematic for the town people because her food became blood, and she was living off of human energy. And this was a true story, and it was witnessed by someone I knew, and that person used to go to temple a lot. And later the town tried a lot to kick her out of the town, but she lived all the way at the next to the cemetery, and sometimes people went and they didn't see her in the home, but then they would see her reappear in the cemetery, sitting somewhere crying or laughing. So people really had no control where she would be. I'm sure she is still there somewhere that nobody knew, because she was 80 years old and she would look like 25. So even though it's hard to believe, there are magical things, dark things, evil things in this world. And just because we haven't seen it yet, or just because someone hasn't seen it yet, doesn't mean that they don't exist. They are there just like the good things are there, same way the bad things are there too. So there are a lot of weird bad things are there as well. And as humans, we have tremendous abilities and capabilities which has been hidden and kept secret. But as human ventured out, they did experience amazing powers. One of the thing which is whoever worship whatever, they become that after worshiping certain times. So if someone is worshiping God, they become part of that God, because some of the part of the godly qualities will come in them, because everything is energy in this world. Equally, someone is worshipping devilish qualities will come in them, because God and devil all are energy. God is higher energy and devil is lower energy. So and we all are energies and frequencies. So as people worshipping the lower frequencies, one of the things happens is that they become very evil, just like the lower frequencies. But as people are worshiping God, one of the things happens is they become very kind. They will be kind to humanity. They will be kind to animals and all kinds of things, all kinds of lives in this world. They will be gentle, soft spoken. And as people worship the evil, they will be cunning and lying and cheating and very evil. So no matter how much advanced we become, how sophisticated we become, how much devices we use, but still there are so many things in the world that we don't have clue of what it is. And years back, yogis used to be extremely powerful, and they meditated for years on certain gods like Shiva, Kali, and they became part of those gods, and they retained godly powers. They had a tremendous amount of power. So yes, humans are powerful, but we're made to believe that we're not powerful, but we are. So thank you so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share, and I'll see you with many more. Bye bye. Have a great night. Good night.